Hello, everybody. Today is a good one. I am excited to be here with Melissa Toa. You and I go way back.
Yep.
You were one of our first ever clients. I still remember you responding to my LinkedIn message when I was offering a white paper on employer branding. I was like, oh my God, Mel Toa wants my white paper. And here we are today, 8 years on, or 7 years on. Tell us, Mel, a bit about you and about your organisation, Kimberly-Clark.
Sure. So I actually remember that time I signed in for your white paper, Mark. Mark.
Mike?
Yeah. Mark. Oh my God, I'm so close to the mic. See, this is what's putting me off.
It's all right, Janet. It's fine.
And I remember it was probably about like close to midnight, and I was thinking those times when you just can't switch off because you've been given a really big business situation to try and find a solution for. And I was just scrolling, and then I saw it on LinkedIn, and I thought, maybe this could help. This could, maybe not be that full, I guess, game changer, but it could at least help towards that. So, yes, I do remember that fondly that time.
Amazing. And we'll come on and talk about that work at some point.
But, so I work for Kimberly-Clark, have been with Kimberly-Clark for over 2 years now, which has flown by. And for those that don't know Kimberly-Clark, we make products like Huggies nappies, Huggies wipes, Femcare, You by Kotex, as well as toilet paper, Kleenex, etc. So I'm sure if you haven't heard of us, you've probably used one of our products.
Amazing. And before then, you've had a really diverse career, right?
Yeah.
I remember, obviously, Campos Coffee and JD,
Sephora, Estee Lauder. So kind of started in retail and just loved it. And the pace, the style, the people, and then continued my career there, and kind of ever since there have been really bouncing off the excitement of fast-paced kind of environments and industries.
And what I love about you, Mel, there's a lot of people who are out there on the circuit. They talk at events, they go to lots of things. You very rarely do because you're too bloody busy. And so I'm really excited to get your perspectives today. So I'll try and talk less than I normally would on this stuff. Okay. Let's start with Kimberly-Clark. We did some employer branding work with you. We did an EVP, albeit aligning with the core global EVP. We did some strategy and some content, and we found a really fascinating organization. Surprising, this large corporate multi-brand organization that has a mill in Millicent, which is 5 hours drive from Melbourne and 5 hours from Adelaide in the middle, and that has this in Sydney and beyond. You have this really human, relationships-driven, quite informal, friendly culture. Mm-hmm. All of those things kind of combining. Yep. What is it like to work at Kimberly-Clark ANZ?
Yeah, interesting question. So you probably think about Kimberly-Clark as a huge global conglomerate.
I think just from outside you do, yeah.
But actually deep down it is that human-centric, all about relationships, building and fostering those relationships to collaborate and, come out with amazing products. And I think that's what surprised me the most. You can from the outside come across as something, but actually when you're in it and there's this deep intrinsic kind of feel of family culture. And I guess that's what I've enjoyed most about it. You can have those transparent discussions with your leader and even, higher than that, without feeling like there's an us and them mentality, or a level of, I can't be who I am in front of others. So I think that's what makes it so different and so special, but also down to earth. And you would have experienced that when you did some of our EVP work, especially in Millicent, where, the employee base of that particular site is a community, and it's a community inside work and outside of work as well, which obviously brings its challenges, but also what makes it so different to other businesses that I've worked at and other plants and manufacturing sites within different companies.
And there's an interesting relationship there. I got to travel to Millicent and spend some time there, and I agree with you. The warts and all, right? There's ups and downs, but that community is immensely reliant and grateful for Kimberly-Clark. You are a stable, secure employee. You have been for many years. You're there. You pay relatively well compared to other options in that community, in that place. It's a deep connection. But it's like families are deep connections, right? And families don't fly easily, so there's challenge there. Super interesting. I'd love to talk to you about where you're at on talent in the business. Like, what are you trying to achieve? Everyone hears me say all the time, employer branding is a business solution to a business problem. What is the business trying to do from an attraction point of view, from a retention point of view, from a culture point of view?
Yeah, I think our biggest kind of big bet this year when we talk about our culture and our attraction, et cetera, and retention is like many other businesses, where our consumers are forever changing. And so as a business, we need to always be or try to be one step ahead of our consumer. So because of that, we need to ensure that our talent have the skills, capability for the future. And actually, most recently we had our International Personal Care yearly conference where we had a futurist come and speak to us and talking about, AI technology. And as I'm sure you would understand, people are worried about how AI is going to change their role. And what's really important for us is not how AI is going to take over certain roles, but actually how do we use AI to be the best, to better collaborate, to better develop, to better innovate? How do we use that technology to not lose the human-centric capability that we have, which is super important so that we're always in touch with our consumer, but how do we leverage that even more? And so for us, it's all about setting up our talent for the future, looking at, different skills and capabilities, looking at critical roles that are going to be so essential to our business. If we lose that talent, we're already ready to move forward. So I think there's a lot of work being done at the moment in that talent capability piece globally, as well as also instilling a culture of belonging and inclusion. It's always been super important across the Kimberly-Clark business. And now speaking, more from a global supply chain business, which is where my role falls into right now. Our chief supply chain officer is so committed to belonging and inclusion that as part of our, senior leader KPIs and objectives, there is a whole piece around achieving our belonging and inclusion targets. So that just, for me, creates an opportunity to push our talent and ensure that our strategies are all aligned to exactly what we say as a business.
And that's super interesting. But belonging and inclusion is in some ways ostensibly easy when it's a small thing, small team, and when things are stable. You are a big, fragmented, dispersed business where decision-making can be highly far away from the individual on the ground. You are going through change, and you always will be. And we're at a time in our lives in society where tech has never moved so fast, so there's never been so much disruption. Right? We always say that, but it seems to me that we're very much there. There's something, though, isn't there, about belonging because of change, belonging, the change and the process of trying to figure this out together, driving belonging and inclusion and well-being. How on earth, though, do you leverage that from the middle? Because relative to the business, you're sitting in the middle, right?
Yeah.
And from a P&C point of view, how do you keep people connected during times of change?
Yeah, I mean, businesses are always transforming. We went through a huge transformation last year, and we're continuing that. So for us, it's around what lessons have we learnt from going through, big change. And let's face it, we've been changing as a business, as businesses, for a long time. And I guess people are feeling it a lot more now because of technology, but also I think what's really important, what not only Kimberly-Clark, but I think other businesses have learned, is when going through change, being transparent and being open has its positives and its negatives. The positives are people feel like they're part of the change. They're part of the process. They're part of the decision making. The challenges is sometimes you be too transparent and it brings on this fear. So when that happens, you need to do other things as a business to ensure that there's still that connection. And so, for example, Kimberly-Clark have a ERG called Kaleidoscope.
Employee Resource Group?
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
Called Kaleidoscope. And I guess the vision for the Kaleidoscope group is just like when you look into a kaleidoscope, there's all different lenses, all different colours, all different ways and shapes to make a picture. And we're all part of this picture. So how do we bring people together? And we do that through moments of celebration. So we may celebrate different cultures. We celebrate our families, where we, either bring our families to work and it's Kimberly-Clark childcare for a day, and you hear all the screams and the fun downstairs, and you get to go and have lunch with your children, etc. Or it's through our family twilight nights at our, Melissa manufacturing site, where again, you get to work now is more than just a place you go between 9 to 5. We have flexible working, we have remote working, we have work from home. And so all of a sudden there is no, work life, home life anymore. It's just one big kind of mashup. And we know that lives are so busy that, you just work within what you have. So it's about building that connection, I think, whilst going through that change is important.
That's really interesting. There was a guy, I think he was a very unpopular CEO or founder of a business, who talked about work-life integration. And he said a lot of idiot things. And he also said that, and so that got jumped on as well. But I would argue that work-life integration is pretty central and pivotal for anyone in this day and age. Everything integration. So the idea of work-life balance, I understand where it comes from, and the idea, that the work doesn't hurt you. I get that. But balance feels like the wrong word for a lot of people. We're switching on, we're switching off, we're being distracted, we've got our phones. It's as a founder of a business and as a business owner, I spend a lot of time thinking about this, because I don't want my team to work ridiculous hours. I don't want people to put the business ever ahead of people they care about, their loved ones and whatever. But I do really want them to care. And sometimes that means remembering something at 7 p.m. and going, I must just do that and log in and do it. Now, I don't want that to be a norm. I don't expect. But what I see is a lot of stuff on social media, especially in that younger generation. It sounds so old when I say that, but I'm not having a go. I'm just saying there's this mantra of your boss won't be there on your deathbed. Your family will. So why are you working? And the idea of work as little as you have to earn the most you can. And I think there's a missed point there around the role that work can play in how we feel and our validation of ourselves, and the opportunity to test ourselves and grow and to achieve things.
Yeah, and I think it's a really important point you make. And I mean, I can speak from my own perspective, especially in my current role, right, where I look after a number of countries, not just ANZ, across different geographies and different time zones. And I also communicate a lot with our North American team, which is our head office. So, the first thing people say to me is, how do you how do you schedule your day? And while some might find it really difficult, I found it as a really great opportunity to be able to balance my personal life and my commitments with my children and my family and my work life to be able to flex both.
Right.
And so, there may be some nights where I'm in meetings from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. But the next morning I have a solemn morning and I'm able to, go and enjoy school drop-off without the rush of having to be in an office by 9 a.m.
And that, again, is an interesting thing, Kimberly-Clark, because I think you could assume if you look at a place from outside, would that be very rigid? But it seems there's a lot of trust there.
Yeah,
From
and
your manager.
and that trust is it's given to you from day one. It's not something necessarily that you need to kind of fill a cup of to be able to then benefit from. And I think that's one, and it's not even a retention strategy, to be honest. It's just we understand that people have lives outside of work, and to get the best out of people at work, they need to feel like they can put their best energy and effort in.
And I love, one of your pillars is about, I think it's win in a culture of inclusion and care.
Yeah.
And that was the EVP pillar. And we talked about the culture of inclusion and care. And I remember talking to Belinda Driscoll and you and Sarah Schmaltz and others about what do we mean by culture of care? And we found this wonderful duality around care in terms of supporting people and balance and being kind and nice. And then care as in investing, having skin in the game, pushing for high performance.
Yeah.
And I love that we were able together to put those things together as part of that story. How's that going internally in terms of really embedding that idea of culture of care twofold?
Yeah. And I guess that was at a real pivotal time for us as a company. Kimberly-Clark had always been a culture of care, but sometimes to the point of the detriment of somebody's growth.
Right.
And so at that point in time, we were rolling out, I think it was the second phase of what we call performance equals care, which essentially is being able to deliver high results in a culture that is caring, but not in the sense of we're not going to give that feedback because that might upset that person.
So having the hard conversation.
But actually having the hard conversation to nurture somebody's growth and potential within the business and having that conversation with rigor, with data, and with a level of empathy.
Yeah.
Right? So a message given with empathy versus a message without empathy is two very different results. And so our Performance Equals Care program is all about being able to provide that feedback in a way that really is for the growth of the person receiving that feedback, and not for any ill-intended way.
And I've obviously tracked your career for certainly the last 7 or 8 years, but you've been there and done it in quite diverse places, right? Different places. And I imagine that's one of those classic, that's transferable to anywhere. I think about that piece of, if you're managing or if you're HRing of any kind, you've got both hats on. You've got the supportive, the championing, and then you've got the challenging and the having the hard conversation. I don't just mean the bad bits when it's gone wrong, the bad cop, good cop. I don't just mean that. I mean more the culture of care to challenge and champion at the same time.
Yeah.
Thinking about that career you've had and the way you've journeyed, what's that done for you in terms of you as an HR person, as a P&C leader?
Yeah, I think, I've had so many different ways of which I've had to do this in different environments, from quite corporate environments through to, working at Campos. It was a family-owned business, right? And so when you're working for the owner of a company, it is very different to working for a CEO of a business. And I think for me, it's the same principles.
Interesting.
It's the same principles. It's making sure that you're able to deliver whatever message it is, rather being, constructive, positive, etc., with a level of human-centric, I guess, skill. And I think that's what has moved me in my career, and feedback I've always had is I'm able to have difficult conversations at all different levels of the business, from senior executives sitting on a board through to entry-level retail casual assistants working on the shop floor in a Sephora. Being able to just get on that level of understanding with who I'm communicating with.
Yeah, makes sense.
Because everyone has different challenges, and I can guarantee you that the challenges are far and fair between, depending on how senior you are. But actually, they're mostly the same challenges. Relationship problems. Problems with their children. Money problems, family, career. I don't know what's next for me. They're all the same. They're just at different levels of intensity.
It's still humans. Right?
Yeah.
It's just in different shapes and sizes.
Exactly. And so I feel like you don't need to change who you are as a person. You probably just need to change the way that you connect with them.
Okay.
And your communication style.
Yeah.
Having a conversation with a fresh 18-year-old who's doing this role one day a week whilst studying at university versus a fully fledged senior level associate or executive that's had a number of years of experience in that role. It's the same.
It's the partnering piece that I find fascinating, and you've always done that. I've seen you partner with CEOs. I've seen you partner again with people on the ground, and there's something about that consistency of you. Like you said, change your communication style, I understand that, but not change who you are. I think you said not change the identity. It makes me think about Campos Coffee, and I can't say Campos Coffee without smiling, because it was such a great business.
It was a great ride.
And it was a great ride, right? Yeah. And I got to be part of it in a little way for a period, but you were there for a lot of that time. So for those who don't know, Campos Coffee are now owned by JDE Peet's, but they were originally founded by Will.
Yep.
And you worked with Will and Damien when they were really scaling that business, and you were there to see that acquisition. We did some work together doing your EVP and your values and some amazing storytelling. And I've got to say, one of my favorite experiences ever was to go around the country sitting in cafes at night after shifts were finished, they were closed, drinking beer and eating pizza and asking people why they choose to work for Campos Coffee and what it's like. It was really it was really an amazing kind of experience to connect with people in that way, to engage people and inspire them to want to talk to us, because they're all going, well, I'm being paid for the hour, but why am I here, kind of thing. Why did you go for it with an EVP back then? And back then, EVP wasn't as prevalent as it is now. Why did you go for it? What were you trying to achieve? And tell me about the process.
Yeah, so I guess we had a problem to solve as a business, right? We were a family-owned company, had been like that for many, many years, and like any family, we went through turbulent times. We went through, I was probably the first official HR person, right? That's how I was referred to when I
official HR person.
Official HR person. And before that, it was Will's sister.
Right. Yeah.
So they probably never really got to the root of, some of the deep, and I mean I'm talking like really deeply now, like it's a real family, but some of those deep entrenched feelings. And so when we came to the point of the business where we were really scaling up, we were having tremendous growth. Campos was part of the revolution of specialty coffee in Australia. And it had really built its brand. And there were so many other companies aspiring to be
That's right.
who Campos are, and they're a pioneer. You know, Will was a pioneer. Damo came in with a fresh look at things, with
Commercial
the
strategy.
commercial capability and that strength to really take it from where it was to even more fabulous. And so we needed to do more. We needed to, in order to get ahead of the game, other businesses were catching up. And so we needed to really understand, like, what does make Campos special? You know, people stayed there for a long time. We didn't have any of these, like, amazing policies of, fifth week of leave, or, half day Fridays, or, and we do have them at Kimberly-Clark, which are amazing. But, the business wasn't built on policies or, flex work or, whatever that world looked like. It was built on this, this real yearning for purpose. We had all of these amazing employees that they worked for Campos because they felt like they had a purpose. And it was, whether that was the way in which we purchased green bean coffee direct from the farms versus a third party.
Yeah.
Whatever it might be.
More money back in the
correct
pockets of the farmers.
Yeah. There was that sense of passion, and ultimately the sense of pride. Hence how we landed on our EVP. And so that was probably that time when I couldn't sleep, and I was thinking to myself, how are we going to bring this out and bring it to life? I was able to connect with the business on a level of, getting to understand and getting just those small little nuggets out. But how was I going to bring this to life and make it bigger than what it is, and actually build something out of it? And that's obviously how we connected.
Touch, yeah,
and so our goal was to really capture that intrinsic version of what Campos is and be able to kind of shout it from the rooftops. And so part of that was hearing from the people, because, yeah, sure, we could take the senior execs out for 2 days to the Hunter Valley and talk about what makes us so special. But if it doesn't come from the people that live it day in and day out, how do you get them to believe it?
I love that. And I think, and when we flowed it through to the stories as well, it's interesting because Will was such an icon. I remember when I met him for the first time, I had a massive crush on that guy. He was iconic. And for me, it wasn't just about what he'd created. It's about who he is. He's so unassuming and so on. And that was part of the brand. And it was very centered on him in some ways. But on the other hand, if you're saying, why come and be a barista? Well, they're not working with Will every day. They're working with the other baristas and the other staff in there. And if you want to be, roasting, it's the delivery drivers.
Yeah.
In lots of ways, the Campos brand was only a small part of that employee experience. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I agree with you. It was that need to listen to those people across the board.
Yeah.
And we put the yards in.
Yeah, we did. Had a few beers and pizzas, and we got to those deep and meaningful conversations.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy.
There's some of them, people were crying from the experiences they had, and it even surprised me at some of the conversations our customers would have with baristas. How important that relationship is with the person they see every day.
We talked about the power of 60 seconds, didn't we?
The consistency of seeing that person every day and how that built this really weird relationship.
Do you remember the story? And I thought I remembered it so vividly, and then remember it even more vividly.
Okay.
But do you remember that they, because they'd sit there, and this is like crew who are tired after a day's work, whatever else, and they're drinking their beer and they're thinking, why are we here? And there's a bit of cynicism from some.
Yeah.
And then 20 minutes later, it flicked. And I remember and for me, because I'm always honing my craft and my team's craft, I always think, what do we do? And the biggest thing for me was frame it, get them set up, and then get out the way. And we just let them tell their story and share. And I remember the moment somebody talked about, they said, oh, you get your regulars and they come in every day. And, the other day somebody came in and told me that she'd got a new job. And I was so, the fact that she wanted to tell me that meant something. And then there was this pause and this person put their hand up. And I just, again, my job was to see that person and go, oh, tell me. That was all I needed to do. And she said, I have a regular client. She came in last week and told me she'd lost her baby. And the whole room just went quiet. And it wasn't quiet stunned. It was quiet, yep, I connect with that. I know that because I've experienced something bigger, bigger, the same or small or whatever. And again, this idea and what it did for me was, and I realize I'm not the guest on the podcast, you are, but what it did for me was this reminder of you can look at that and go, oh yeah, it's hospitality, it's somebody doing casual, it's whatever, it's transactional. And I said, how long do you actually spend with that client each day? And they said, oh, about 45 seconds. And so you kind of go, wow, like that Campos Coffee employee played a really vital role in that moment.
Yeah.
And they are your brand.
Yeah.
That's not the big deal. It's about life and death and humans. But from an employment perspective, they are your brand.
And, we talk about first interactions, right? And it's first interactions in customer service, in retail, in making that first connection with someone. And that's what was really important. And, in that example, it's clearly the trust that somebody who we think just makes their coffee every day, how important that person is to them.
Absolutely.
And it blew my mind, right?
Yeah. But I remember as well, like it's less emotional, but I remember a story about when it was a pretty standard one, but it was the manager on duty that day and they said on the shift and they said, oh, someone in the team had made a coffee for this person and they brought it back. It wasn't right. So that you were talking a lot at the time about the importance of consistency. You want
quality.
Consistency, quality, consistent quality. And it's not enough to be able to make an amazing one if every third one isn't good, right? It's a consistency. And he said, oh, the coffee had been brought back and they made it again and she still wasn't happy, the client. And the customer said, oh, look, he went through and said, look, let me make it for you. And she said, no, just make me a peppermint tea. You're done. And I remember his word. He said, I looked at her and said, I'm really sorry, but I can't do that. You're in Campos Coffee. Please let me make it again.
Yeah.
And he made obviously brilliant coffee. And she left more of an advocate for Campos Coffee despite 2 failed coffees.
Yeah.
And I think this, again, another big learning from a story about what actually matters in customer service, in hospitality, that vocation, that sense of pride around doing it right, rather than just not really caring and just going, oh, she's just a customer, she'll go, we'll get another one. There's another 30 people in here that I can serve.
Yeah. And I think that was one of the things that Will instilled so much to everyone that worked at Campos, whether you were a barista, you worked on the front desk in reception, you were roasting the coffee, is that quality is never compromised. Even if it was to the detriment of the business, right?
Same as customer care, right?
And and that some business owners can see that as a fantastic thing or mindset to have, and others wouldn't because obviously it erodes profit. But at the end of the day, it was so entrenched into the culture that we had to ensure that quality was always part of everything that we did. And so, hence how we came up with with having that pride and linking quality with the pride that you do and how proud you are of the work that you do. But yeah, it was a good round trip of Australia.
It was, certainly was. And we looked at your values as well and revisited those. And again, they didn't want to throw them out. They wanted to look at what to retain, but we just amended them slightly. And sadly, you know, with the JD Pete's acquisition, obviously those can't be seen anymore and so on. But I remember them well. And what was that like versus an EVP process, that process of really examining what should our values be? What does it take to thrive here? What are the behaviors that make this place what we are versus why should I work here?
Yeah. And I think we went through kind of a similar process with that.
Certainly the same organic listing.
Yes, correct. Like we got the whole company together. Yeah. We did a bit of a workshop, which worked really well, right? Because again,
Did we do 5 workshops? Repeating. It was like rotating workshops.
The one thing that, well, not the one thing, we had multiple things that were consistent. And so for us, I think it was then a little bit of a no-brainer to really build our values and our purpose on these words that we had heard so often and repetitively throughout the workshops. But I think it was important because that was a point in time, and it was a really important point in time where we kind of were moving from that family-owned business to being more commercially driven.
Scaling, wasn't it? Yeah.
And also being able to be in a position where we were irresistible to much larger businesses. And, you know, there were plenty of opportunities where large businesses and, you know, global businesses came knocking on our door to acquire Campos because there was something truly special about it. But I think it was because it was so authentic. And there was that sense of people worked there because they loved what they did. You stayed because you loved what you do.
But we needed them to love the journey, didn't we? And that was the thing that was interesting because I remember you had some really fierce, ferocious advocates who massively invested in who you were as a business. Some of them, it felt that they needed to invest in who you were becoming and the journey to get there. And that is a really hard thing to do, especially in a business like Campos.
Yeah. And I mean, look, we could have said to people, get on the bus.
Yeah.
Or
get off the bus. Yeah.
Take the next stop.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we didn't want, that wasn't who we were as a business, right? So if we started talking like that, we would have, I would imagine, you know, taken some people offside quite early on who we may have wanted to come on the journey with us. Yeah. And so we just had to think about doing things differently. And that's what I've always enjoyed about the different roles I've had is I've had the trust of the senior leadership team to come up with a creative way or a magical journey to get to where we needed to be without compromising who we are, but maybe doing it in a different way. And that's where, you know, I don't know if you know the, you know, Insights profile, but I'm high yellow energy.
I believe it.
And
I'm very red.
And yeah. And I like that creative opportunity that I get in my roles to be able to either reinvent, build something from scratch, or be able to take people on a journey, but in a way that is different or creative or feeling like they're always part of something. And that's what I believe is probably, you know, one of the key strengths that we've had in working together.
Yeah, definitely.
Is you bring the red energy, I bring the yellow. So together, we can be friends.
So your yellow is vision and intuition, and red is emotion, deep emotion, right? We're talking about the TAME model.
Yeah, and also, very direct. It's like, well, no, we're doing it this way. And I'm like, oh, but we could also add a bit of sparkle there, to make it a bit more fun, Mark.
It's been it's starting to sound a bit like This Is Your Life, but it's been a really good journey. Last thing I want to ask you, that HR is a really fascinating moment, and I hope I brought it to life in this conversation, but this thing I admire about you is this person who's had her head down for all these years, working hard, moving around, moving with people, having the conversations good and harder and better and whatever. HR is changing massively, right? AI, as you've talked about, is disrupting hard. What do you think lies ahead for HR as a profession? If I'm graduating today with an HR degree or diploma of some kind, should I be terrified? What should I be thinking or feeling?
I don't think you should be terrified. I truly love what I do. And I think the reason I love what I do is I get to connect with so many different people. And that's where I think, as much as AI, technology, or any type of, centralization, etc., comes in, there's always going to be that human element. Unless one day we have robots working absolutely everywhere.
We'll be working for them, right?
Correct. Yeah. And hopefully they've got, I can program them with a bit of a high yellow so that we can, work together really well. But I think embrace it. Embrace the use of AI technology. I mean, I know I have. Working in a global company such as Kimberly-Clark, we are able to have access to technology. And so being able to use Copilot, you put something in and kind of like, oh, maybe reword this to make it a little bit more, I don't know, connection, build that connectivity, etc. And then there's always adjustments that you make, but I think embrace technology.
Totally agree. And I think, for what it's worth, it's not even a hope. I'm really, really confident and optimistic that in a world that is increasingly run with and through very, very smart technology, we've got all these humans still here, still working. So unless we're going to have to, it's going to have to be collusion at least, unless we're going to extinct. And my real hope in our profession of HR, and I hope you don't mind me saying our on that, is that human resources, people and culture becomes even more pivotal and even closer to the CEO. Because in a world where everything's disconnected, where everything's accelerated, where we need and crave connection more than ever. And so my hope is that CHRO or whatever that role is gets as close as you were to Damien and Will at Campos Coffee, in terms of that really helping this business succeed with and through and because of the humans in the organization and how they behave every day.
Yeah. And I think that's the important takeaway from that is use technology and everything that's out there so that you can be doing more meaningful work. Things that a computer can't do, things that technology can't do. And that is creating that connection, building that trust, building that ability to be that platform for amazing initiatives and an opportunity for people to connect with.
I love it.
So, don't be afraid. Use it. Use it to your abilities.
Thank you so much. That was an awesome conversation. I hope everybody's enjoyed it. And you should definitely look up Mel Toa and stalk her on LinkedIn. I, for one, can't wait to see what you do next.
Awesome. Thanks, Mark.
Bye.